How transferable are card game skills? Today we have arguably the best Yu-Gi-Oh player of all time in the house, trying to figure out which Riftbound cards are staples and which ones are stinkers. If you're a TCG fan, Jesse Kotton needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. Jesse Kotton is a Yu-Gi-Oh GOAT, perhaps the best Yu-Gi-Oh player of all time. He has 9 premier event wins, so many more accolades over a very, very long career, and a very popular content creator too. And we got him in today to try and figure out Riftbound cards. He's played one Riftbound game in his entire life, has no other real experience beyond that. So we're going to put him to the test on a bunch of Riftbound cards, finding out if they are a stinker or a staple. Gonna give him a squeeze, gonna be a lot of fun. Brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, our wonderful sponsor, where you can get 5% off your order with promo code ARCANE, and also you can sell your cards to them as well and get that sweet 25% trade-in bonus. Check it all out at CoolStuffInc.com. So our first card is a red card. It's the Chaos Domain, and it costs 1 energy. It's a spell at action speed, meaning you can play it during showdowns, but not like reacting to things. And it gives the unit Assault 3 this turn, which is a 3 might bonus while it's an attacker. What do you think?
I mean, +3 for 1 seems like a pretty reasonable trade. Seems like it requires to be proactive though, which can always be a downside that you can't just use it reactively. So you're not really like getting a value off it necessarily, because sometimes it's like you want your opponent to burn a card or two, and then you buff your guy up to still win the trade. And you know, that's like the best time to use these buff cards I found, at least in Yu-Gi-Oh or other games. Like I said, a Yu-Gi-Oh parable would be Rush Recklessly or Shrink from the olden days. So you can't do that, but obviously being able to get the point can be pretty good, and it makes your guy resilient to opposing cards for a pretty cheap cost, I imagine. You don't have to sack off the energy either. You don't have to like bottom deck it. I don't know the actual name of the terminology, but
yeah, it's recycling a rune. So when if it's a power cost on there, you're right. You got to bottom one of your resources.
So I also know that a bunch of cards have effects, right, when they conquer.
Some units too, yeah. Like a card like Kaisa, when it conquers, you draw a card, which is very powerful.
Sure, yeah. So like I imagine when you're trying to go for those payoffs, this is pretty nice, because forcing that through, getting the point, and then cycling or generating whatever edge you have is pretty good. I don't know if that has synergies with this card, like if there's enough in the red color, but I'm going to say this is, I'm assuming a staple means within its color. I'm going to say this is probably a staple. Red is usually aggro in these goddamn games, so let's say staple.
Well, you got it. I gave you a pretty easy one first. It's funny because when I first saw this card, it is pretty narrow, right? You can only play it on offense.
Yeah.
It's not a reaction, so it's not like they can like try and kill your creature and you can like save it in response, you know? So it is a very limited spell, but you are absolutely correct that 3 is a lot in this game, and conquering is very, very important. So cleans a staple, got the first one, easy game. Our next card is called Raging Firebrand. This is a 6 energy, 1 power unit. It's 4 base might, and says when you play me, the next spell you play this turn costs 5 less energy.
Here I was saying red is probably aggro. Now we have a card that is very much like combo control oriented. 5 less, so you're essentially playing this for the cost of 1, and including a bottom deck. So it's a 1 mana might 4, assuming you're comboing off for a maximum efficiency here, and then triggering a 5 cost or higher spell to take advantage of your bonus. That's probably like fine. I don't know if that's that crazy, because obviously it's a 1 mana for attack, but that requires a combo, and it requires the pre-existing minimum of 6. And of course that only works at 6 if the next card you're playing is 5 exactly. And I just said I thought red is more aggressive, so if I'm continuing with this assumption, this feels like not the right fit. I mean, like, it's a card that with the right card pool could be like a solid card, but I'd say by itself it's probably not crazy. I'm gonna go stinker.
You're correct, yes. It's funny actually, because there are some effects in red. Like there's a card called Battering Ram, which is a 5 energy, 5 might unit that costs 1 less for each thing you've played to a minimum of 1. So there are cards that kind of like have that sort of, you know, chain things together, do that effect. But yeah, this up front, this is a little too much cost. I think your assessment here is exactly right, where you're just you need to have that next piece, or it doesn't really do much for what you're trying to get for it. So great. It's actually really fun watching players kind of work through, like, you're obviously a super accomplished card game player, so you're kind of like okay, let me piece this apart and find all the things, whatever. It's kind of fun to watch. It's cool. So sweet. Yep. So 2 for 2.
And while I'm a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player, I have played some Magic, Hearthstone, Pokemon. So I mean, and Pokemon's not a mana game, but One Piece. So I do have experience with the mana systems and how like important curves are, tempo, because obviously that matters more in these type of games. So I'm not completely out of my depth the way some Yu-Gi-Oh players might be.
Okay, so yeah, it's funny because Sean had said to me, he was like, make sure you put some expensive cards in there, because like Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have that pure resource system of like knowing how the costing works and stuff. So like he was like, try and slide some in. So
I like played a GP. I've dabbled a bit.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. What GP?
Oh, Toronto. Yeah, I don't remember. I played a Grixis Death Shadow. That was the only one I played because my friends locally were playing, and then they stopped. And I'm like, all right, well, go back to playing other stuff.
That's fine. Sweet. We're going to move over to the Calm domain. This is green. This is a spell. It's called Charm. 1 energy, 1 power, move an enemy unit.
This looks like a character that I've seen a lot of art for.
This is Ari. This is a very popular character.
Okay. Move an enemy unit, just like move its from like base to like a showdown.
Yeah, so there are 2 battlefields and then your base. So you can move it from battlefield to base to battlefield, from battlefield to battlefield, any whatever combination of the movements. And there's also a slow speed spell. So there's the slow speed is only on your turn.
Like redirect them on their turn.
Right.
And you have to burn the energy as well. You don't just like tap, you also throw it away. Is this really a powerful effect? I mean, like I can clear an area for like cheese pushes, but this is like something you want to do at the end. I don't know if it actually gets you real value like in an early game. I'm gonna say stinker, and I can't wait to be wrong here.
All right, we got you in the first one here. So the biggest thing in this game is that when I saw this card, I thought the exact same thing. I'm like, this can't be worth an entire card just to move a unit once. But the way combat works in this game is that you force your opponent to fight your units. So if you're at a battlefield with say a 5-byte unit and they have a 4-byte unit at their base, which would normally be safe, you can just like pull it in and then start the fight.
Okay.
Right. And then it also has the utility of maybe you just clear a battlefield and get a cheesy point, like you're saying. Maybe you break, if there's 2 things in a battlefield, you can break one of them up. Like the flexibility is so much more than just the 4 words in the card, where at first glance, you're not just like killing a thing or getting a thing, but it has a lot of flexibility in actual gameplay. So this is definitely a staple. It's one that the more you play with it in the game system, the more you go like, oh yeah, man, how did I miss this? So I'm with you. For me, I was in the exact same spot when I started.
Yeah, I think my intuition was thinking about using this card to cheese the point, but using it in reverse to bring enemies like as a lure almost into the battlefield to force the value trade is something I wasn't considering. That also makes sense. Yeah,
the game is so movement focused that like so much of the game is like, moving your units in and out of battlefields, finding a spot, deciding if you want to stay there or not, or you want to go home. There's a lot of like hit and run where you kind of go in and then come back out kind of stuff. So movement is like everything in the game. So big one. So cool. Charm. Heard it here first, folks. It's a stinker. All right, next up is another Calm card. You have a Calm unit this time around. This is a 4 energy 3-byte unit called Stellicorn Herder. Another simple line of text. When I move, draw 1.
4 mana for a slow draw that can just be like bopped by some spell like on their backswing. Because these have summoning sickness, right? You can't just keep going like immediately.
Right. So similar to Magic, where when you play a unit, it's not actually summoning sick. It just comes in exhausted. And the move mechanic is to exhaust your unit. So when you're ready, then you can move. The move costs a tap, basically. So you play this to your base, it comes in exhausted, and then we're ready in your turn, and you can move it.
Like, in a perfect world, this lives forever and draws cards every turn, but, dude, 3 is not that big. It's 4 cost, and it's not even an immediate payoff to, like, make it okay. And then, obviously, it's not, like, well protected either, I feel like. Unless there's cards that make it super easy to protect or move immediately. I'm inclined to say this is just a stinker, like, through and through.
Yeah, this is one that's very contextual. You're absolutely right. When I saw it too, I was kind of like, but there's, again, a lot of things in the game care about movement. So there's a legend, for example, called Aurelia, which allows you to kind of ready your things up quickly, and then you can kind of move in and try and move out. There's ganking effects that go from battlefield to battlefield, and then there are just things that allow you to kind of ready and move back. So this card is very, very powerful. It does require a specific shell. Like not every green deck will play this card, but it's definitely a staple in the deck. It's a staple in, and it is very unassuming. You know, when I did some design work for this game, also the contract work, and then when I first saw this card, I was kind of like, that seems kind of meh. And then one of the designers beat me with it pretty handily, and I was like, oh, okay, you drew like 5 cards in that game. That was pretty crazy. So yeah, so Teleporter's pretty nice one. Next up, we have Premonition, a spell that costs 2 energy and 3 power. It is a reaction speed spell, so you can play it basically anytime in response to things and so on. And it says draw 3 cards.
This is bait. You're talking to a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Draw 3 sounds so good. And I know, like, I see all the Pokemon effects that are ridiculous, like draw 7 nonsense. I know those are different because those are trainers and they're once per turn, but I'm inclination just to say this card is good. Draw 3, and it's like not that expensive. Obviously, you have to destroy the energy, but like get into a late game, that's pretty easy to recuperate. And like 3 draws is not to be underestimated. Surely, come on, this has to be a staple. Don't mess with me like this.
It's a stinker. Yeah. So that power cost is really, really high. And honestly, I come from Magic where card draw is also fantastic, you know. But this is a game that's really, really tempo-y, where you're managing both the tempo of your resources, because bottoming, you know, you get 2 resources a turn. If you have to bottom 3 of them, it's a lot. And then also you got to be on the board. You got to be at battlefield scoring points or whatever, you know. So at least from a Magic standpoint, you can't just like sit back and draw cards and win the game later. I know Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty like combo heavy too, right? Where you're drawing a lot of cards and kind of setting up big things, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is not an every deck type of thing, but I'm like thinking of the high mana draw cards in Hearthstone, like Nourish or whatever. Like plenty of them have been meta throughout history. It's just they need a shell of usually spell-based or high curve decks, just control strategies or combo strategies. I mean, also I know Riftbound's new, right? So I mean, I have a big card pool to really build those type of things. But
right. That's part of it too, will not be discussing today. They banned recently called Called Shot, which is pretty similar to this, where it's a purple card. It costs 0 and 1 purple power, and then has repeat, so you can just do the cost again and get it again. And it's look at the top 2, keep 1, bottom 1. Basically just 2 purple power, draw 2, and that card was broken. But again, it requires a larger. It was in set 2, it was broken, where there was enough things where you can kind of go through and burn through and draw up. You draw most, like the deck could draw most of its stack. It was pretty broken. And this card is somewhat similar to that, but just a little bit more, and the tools just aren't there. I do agree with your instinct where this card could be like really good 3 sets down the line, or there's like enough tools to really kind of do that. But that sort of like combo control element really isn't in the game yet. It's more combat focused and stuff. So this is like the easiest bait of all time. And you picked up on that immediately, which is really, really funny. But yeah, Premonition so far is a stinker.
That's always the problem with these pro player guesses card from another game, is the other player doesn't have the context of the format, the surroundings, the card pool, which is often defining for what can thrive in a metagame and what can't, not just in individual card quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we discussed a little bit if we should do the legends or not in this game. So legends, of course, that's like your hero in Hearthstone. That's the thing that defines your entire deck, what colors you are, what abilities. But the problem is, like, in order to contextualize the legend, you need to know what like your chosen champion is that goes with it, and the spell that goes with it. And like there's so many moving parts, it's hard to know just by looking at a single legend if it's good or not. So I skip the legends for now. We'll do that another time. But so that's Premonition. Next up, we got a big one in a high-costed unit. Thousand-Tailed Watcher. This is a 7 energy and 1 power unit for a 7 might unit. It is has accelerate, means you can pay an additional energy and a power to have it enter ready. So it kind of like has haste if you're thinking of Magic. And when you play me, you give all of your enemy units -3 might this turn to a minimum of 1.
Okay, so this was in the deck that I played. My friend gave me. So I have
inside
I have
info.
a cheat code. And when I played this card, my opponent complained. So I want to say this is a good card.
Well, you are correct. This is a staple. This is one of the best high-end units in the game. And it is a card that people will complain very often. This unit affects the board immediately. There's so many combos of this card to like shrink all their stuff and play like a 1 damage to multiple effects kind of thing and just kill them all or whatever. And then it also is probably the best card of the entire game at like breaking up a stalled board. Say they've piled up 4 units on one battlefield. You just can't break it. This just is the ultimate breaker. It shrinks all of them, and they can attack immediately. So you get the inside scoop there. Yep, Thousand-Tailed Watcher is definitely a staple. Next up, we're going to move over to the body domain, which is orange for a little unit, just a little guy. 1 energy for 1 might, determined sentry. And this unit simply says, I can't move to base. So if it's at a battlefield, you can't use the move function to back it out or a spell to back it out. You couldn't charm it out, for example. If it's once it's at a base, it just cannot be moved from that base.
Is a 1 mana 1 like attack like a premium in this game? This has to be like just unfair for me. I don't know if that's good or not. Like obviously, yeah.
For some context, you get 2 resources per turn, right? So you get 2, then 4, then 6. On the draw, you get 3. And this is the only 1 energy, 1 might unit in the entire game.
Okay, so that is a premium.
Right. Because the fear game design wise is that if there's a bunch of these, turn 1, you just go unit, go going first, and you can conquer going first, going on turn 2. So this is the first one. This is from the most recent set 3, Unleashed. And it's the only one energy unit in the game.
Can move to base. I mean, you talked about how important moving around was, but obviously the idea here is aggro. Like maybe you equip it with a bunch of random crap. It's just swarm. I mean, like if that is considered a premium, then this has to just be a solid card. But then again, like maybe they're trying to make these type of effects underpowered to avoid aggro dominating the game, and also, like if you said they don't want that happening very often, where you have 2/1 drops immediately, then they're also just going to intentionally try and make the effects worse. That happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! When they're scared of the mechanics becoming too powerful. This is interesting, actually. Obviously, late game this card would suck, so it would have to be. But I think that there's a reliable aggro deck that can use this card. All right, 50-50 time. I'm gonna say this card's a stinker.
I'm gonna give it to you. So this card is so new that people aren't really sure what to do with it yet. It's not really showing up in deck lists so far. It's kind of, I think it's a kind of card that I think it has a pretty good place. I think the most interesting thing about this card is if you're going second, you get the 3rd extra rune. If you can go a 2-drop and this, that gives you the kind of like pseudo turn 2 play.
Yeah, you get a good curve. I'm sure. Right. Yeah.
So like this card isn't seeing a ton of play yet. So I Stinker is going to be the proper answer. But I'm enthusiastic with this card at some point in the future. But yeah, so I think you're totally correct in that the designers are like, they seem scared of doing this kind of thing. So they're coming in really low early, and then it gives them room for later to maybe make it better. So next up we have Punch First. This is a action speed spell, 1 energy and 2 power to give a unit 5 might this turn.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously this is like relatable to the first card you gave me, which was the cleave. But instead, the key differences are obviously different colors that could impact things. You have to bottom the 2 energy, which can be tough, but in return you get even more might, and it's much more flexible in using it. Is that trade-off worthwhile is the question. And that's where you're going to try and trick me. Again, this is like something you'd want to play in aggro decks or decks where you're conquering gets you nice payoffs. Because the extra mana that you're burning is not going to be a huge deal. Or decks that ramp maybe where that mana being burnt is not a huge problem. I mean, the +5 base power for the 1 mana you actually have to tap is pretty good. That's probably undeniable. It's just, is it worth the 2 bottom deck? I'm going to go with it's a staple. But I understand contextually it may not have a place.
All right, so you got it. This is a staple. This is a really, really powerful spell. +5 is just unbelievable. And the thing about this, as opposed to cleave, is you can use it defensively too, which is huge. And it's the kind of thing where, like, whenever you only have 1 resource open, like, it could be anything. Maybe you just didn't have a way to fill out your curve, or you just couldn't spend it, or whatever. And 5 is a huge surprise for that amount. And it's because it can be defensive also. It's like not always telegraphs, where if I like send my 2 into your 3, I have this cleave, it kind of makes sense, So yeah, the cost is very high. Most decks don't play 3 of these, like just the max amount of copies, because it is a big deal to play this card. You can't play it really that early. I mean, you can, but it's, yeah, definitely a staple, powerful pump spell.
Yeah, and I guess just knowing that some copies exist gives you that implicit effect for your opponent to play around that is in itself very valuable.
Right. Yeah, so there's a limited about unlimited so far in this, as far as like sealed deck goes, and they do like the pre-rift events, which are a sealed deck. You open up some packs and build a deck. This was like the actual terror of those pre-rift events, where basically every turn you'd be like, well, this turn's gonna go great for me unless they have punch first, and then case I'm probably gonna lose. So pretty good common. All right, next up we're gonna move over to the chaos domain, which is purple, with a spell called Fight or Flight. This is 2 energy. for a spell. It's an action speed spell that can move a unit from a battlefield to its base, either your units or your opponent's units. It also has Hidden, which is really hard to explain. Hidden's like the most obtuse mechanic in the game. Basically, you can spend a power and hide it at a battlefield that you have units, and then play it at a later point for free. And then it can only affect things at that location, and it's reaction speed. It's a really fun mechanic in the gameplay itself, but it is like the mechanic that has the least amount of words on the card, but actually explain what it does. So hopefully that was a rudimentary explanation.
Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh, right? No, it's confusing is the name of the game for me. No, it's close like a secret or a trap card. Like I understand the premise.
Yeah, that's a good example. So you play it down as a trap card, and you could only have it at a location that you control. If you were to lose control of it and not use the spell, it would just go away. So basically, it's there, and it's going to be used to defend it or whatever else.
All right, so this is where I look like a complete schmuck, because you said how moving was so important with the charm. So going up that earlier information, I'm going to play right into your trap and say this is pretty solid, because you get to do exactly the thing that was before. You get to save your creatures, but this is also sort of operating on the assumption that there are other chaos trap cards, hidden cards you can like set to like give your opponent multiple things to play around, because if that doesn't exist, this also is just extremely telegraphed and pointless. But yeah, screw it, let's go with this is a staple.
I think you gamed the system here. So maybe me as the game designer has failed by putting Charm earlier in the test, because you are correct. Not only is this card a staple, this card is actually banned.
Oh, cool.
Much to my chagrin. And it's funny because the hidden part, I would say, is only about 25% of the value of the card. This is just one of the most flexible cards in the game, as far as it was the best tempo card in the game. You can push back their attacker. You can break up a battlefield. You can save your own units. There's so many things you can do with this. But the big one was, one of the legends abilities is whenever you win a combat, you draw a card. It's called Draven. And the way the game works, if I move my unit into your battlefield, we start a combat, and then I fight or flight your unit back, that counts as winning a combat. So it kind of like adds draw a card to this. So it stops being a tempo card. It starts being a card neutral card, which makes it actually insane. Yeah. And I'm sad about this because I love playing this card so much, and I think that it died for the sins of that legend. But yeah, this is a card that's banned. Well, it's one of my favorite cards in the game, but So if you hadn't seen Charm yet, what would you have thought of this card?
I don't know anymore, so you kind of played yourself.
That's not a world we're living in, I suppose. But yeah, this I would also say this is the card that when I first saw cards in the game, read the card file, this was the card that had my biggest delta between me thinking I thought the card was pretty bad when I first read it, and it's just like, it's banned now. So it's like that. It's a good statement to how important movement is in the game. That the card like this was worth being banned. So fight or flight, I miss you, buddy. All right, next up we have our first gear. So if you want to use magic as an analogy, these are kind of like artifacts. These are things that just stay in play and do an effect. It's a 2-energy gear called Scrappy. That says when I am played, discarded, or killed, draw one.
Discarded like from hand or?
Correct. Yeah, so if I have some effect that would make me discard this, either you make me discard or I make me discard, I would draw to replace instead. If you just play it onto the battlefield, you draw a card, and then if you were to destroy it in some way, you would draw a card.
This seems great. This seems like a perfect combo card for so many things, whether it be like things where you need to sacrifice something for cost, and you get to cycle on the play and on the death. Things that may need to discard for cost, this recycles there, as well as digs you deeper. I mean, in so many other games, like these type of effects just have been like the fillers to round out strong decks that have high costs and power disparity between them. Like if a card is just like some cards are better than other cards in your deck, and that's where recycling can matter more. So I mean, given my history with all these other games where cards like this are good, this is just a staple, surely.
Nailed it. Yeah, this one won't get by most good competitive card game players. This card's also actually banned. This card is a kind of card where when you read it as a person who's played games competitively for so long, you kind of go like, this is a joke, like just a free draw card, and there's many effects in the game that allow you to discard for yourself. When this unit moves, discard a card and then draw a card, and so on and so forth. So it's just a free roll on those, and it was a big part of that deck that would like draw its entire deck. So yeah, this is you nailed it. Scrap Heap is currently banned and was pretty broken and only going to get more broken as the game went on.
I think interestingly, compared to like what I would consider an analogy for Yu-Gi-Oh, Brow the Dark Worlds, players may know, where it had to be discarded to draw cards. It couldn't be interacted with in other ways, or Upstart Goblin is a cycle to draw a card. This did either, so you have options of playing this in multiple different fashions, not even dedicated discard decks, dedicated sacrifice decks.
Yeah, the deck that played this, that was what it got banned, was it had multiple ways to discard it, but it also actually played this card called Detonate, which was a 1 energy, 1 power. You destroy a gear and draw 2, and it had other gear it wanted to kill. But and the fail state of this card was, I can't find a way to discard it. I guess I'll just play it and draw a card, and then detonate it and draw 3 cards. So
mana is something useful instead of sitting there dead with a bunch of bricked cards, right? Which is what can happen with other card games when it's more like singularly designed. Like, it can still be good, but it says if it's discarded, draw 1. But this has flexibility to do other stuff as well.
Right. Yeah, definitely a broken card, and I'm glad this card is gone, because this is the kind of card that, like, fundamentally, as someone who's just thought about game design, like, this card just inherently just seems broken to me. So, all right, moving on to Order, the last of the 6 domains. Yellow, we see Hidden Blade, which is a 2 energy, 1 power spell. It's an action speed spell. It says kill a unit at a battlefield. Its controller draws 2, and it also has the hidden mechanic.
Okay, so Hidden Blade. So, okay. Its controller draws 2. So obviously, you can use this to cycle yourself. But you can also use it for tempo at the cost of value. There's a card just like this in Hearthstone. What's it called? Naturalize? I'm not exactly like this, but obviously this one's hidden as well. I guess the big difference between that and this is we use it at a spell speed, like, that's, quick. So you can, like, have your opponent commit multiple cards into the one battlefield, expecting to win an important trade, and then, like, you kill one guy, but you trade well for the others. Even though they draw 2, it still gives you a ton of tempo and still not the worst value. I don't know if that situation occurs a ton. If it doesn't, then this is pointless what I'm saying. This doesn't scream broken to me, though. It seems like it's fine. Definitely has its uses. I can't tell. It's kind of in the middle for me. In that case, I'm going to assume the drawing wasn't that important in the other deck. Tempo, we're going to value here more. So if a tempo matters more, we'll say it's staple.
This card is a staple. Yes, very good. So this card's very interesting because the use case of targeting your own things comes up a lot, where you often will hide it at a battlefield, and your opponent understands you're playing Order, and I'm moving multiple units to try to make sure I can conquer. And then once the combat isn't beatable by the Hidden Blade, you just kill your own unit and draw 2. Kind of like Get Out, so it's like a get out of jail free card kind of. So, and there also are yellow cards that care a lot about making tokens, like little one might units and stuff that are kind of just very expendable. And there also isn't a lot of just actual kill stuff in this game. It is not necessarily easy to outright kill a unit. And this yellow is one of the few cards that can do it like this. So, well done. That's stable. All right, our other Order card is an equipment card. This is a gear called Sacred Shears, 2 energy and 1 power to play. This is a gear equipment, so it has a equip cost, meaning that you can spend a yellow power to put it on a unit you control. When you do that, it gets that bottom box added to its own text box, which is Death Knell, draw 1. So when the unit dies, you draw a card, and it gets +1 might. Important to note in this game that when equipment goes onto a unit, it does not come off. You cannot remove it until the unit dies or is removed in some other way. So basically, everything aside from that little yellow box that says Death Knell, draw 1 is blank when the card's on a unit.
Okay. You said this deck summoned a lot of, like, small guys or tokens. At which point the +1... Wait, so when that card dies, the equip spell die as well, or does it stay on the field like an enchantment?
It stays. Yeah. So you have a 1 might unit, you put this onto it, they Hidden Blade it or whatever, and then you get the draw trigger for it dying, and then it just sits there until you equip it again.
Okay. I mean, obviously that's anti-tempo, but if a deck is very aggro heavy, then something that's relatively cheap to keep cycling and still generating some power for tempo as well seems decent. Obviously, it's a 2 mana initial commitment, might be a little scuffed, but this feels like over the course of a game, it can help you trade up pretty decently as well as continue to be aggressive. So if it's not good now, I think if you're like getting a lot of small guys and tokens or whatever, this could easily be good. For now, I'll go with it's a staple, but I understand maybe not right now.
Yes, this one's a thinker. I agree with your sentiment. Coming from a Magic background, there's a card called Skull Clamp which was basically allowed you to kill your own units and draw both a bunch of cards while you used it. And that card was utterly broken. I think the upfront cost here is a lot, and again, with it being such a board tempo heavy game, it's hard to want to throw your stuff away just for cards, so you're paying the upfront cost of Mashirs, then putting it on a unit, then the unit has to die. So this one hasn't quite caught on yet, although I think that as the card pool grows, if there's other token effects, it could possibly be a thing.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, definitely the tempo versus card value is always kind of hard to analyze outwards looking in. But yeah, so I guess the general theme is tempo is the name of the game in Riftbound right now, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very much tempo, managing your resources, managing your board, kind of game. There's not really much like. It's funny because there is like combo and control in the sense that like your deck will kind of lean towards that edge while still following the rules of tempo and Riftbound. Kind of, there's no like no unit all spell control deck or no. Big time combo deck that all it does is sit there and take hits till it combos and kills you. Those are, exceedingly rare in this game.
We'll see as time goes on.
Right. Well, it's funny because the deck they banned was kind of like that, where the deck would get through to its second cycle where you'd like see your entire deck and then get to the cards you've recycled. And like there was a point where there's a card called Vi where it has bottom a card or take a card from your trash and put it in the bottom of your library to give it a buff. And then you can keep doing that. It's meant to be use your trash for offense kind of card. People were using it as the one-of combo piece to stack the bottom of their deck. And when they keep drawing through, which is like, I played that deck in one event, my head exploded. Like it was clearly the best deck I've ever played in any TCG ever, but it was impossible to play in the confines of like the round clock. And then you would need hundreds of games to be mildly proficient at it. So our last two cards are going to be battlefields. So these are the locations that you fight over in the actual game. They're part of your deck building as well. So there's like, 20 battlefields in a set or something like that. You choose 3 you want to play. You get to play 1 per game. And you have 1 battlefield that's yours, 1 battlefield that's your opponent's. Any questions on battlefields?
No, I think I got it.
So our first one is called Reaver's Row. It says, when you defend here, you may move a friendly unit here to its base. So basically, if you control this battlefield, and they move in to challenge it, you have the option to take one of your units and just back it out to your base to safety.
So in the same context of a field spell, right, it's always going to be usable for both players. So you have to make sure anything you're doing is like probably beneficial to your strategy more so. Otherwise, if it's just neutral, is it even that good? Instinct here from like if it was just me playing it one-sided, it seems solid for conserving resources. They can launch counterattacks much easier instead of just letting my guys die when they have a good plan. Saves you on value and tempo pretty nicely. But again, like your opponent then gets to do the same thing, which can be scary. So as a card player, this to me looks like a very meta defendant card. Like if I can just use this better than the other decks in the meta type of thing. But I'm gonna say if it's so tempo based right now, all these decks kind of look similar with their combat strategies. It's probably not fantastic. I'm gonna go with Stinker.
So I got you. This is one of only 2 battlefields that is banned. But it's a similar outside the context of just the card itself scope. So I think that this card also died for Draven Sins. So again, same idea where when you're playing Draven, if you move in and they're defending and they choose to back out, that counts as winning a combat. So you draw a card. So, and then they move in and you just back out and they don't draw a card because they don't have legend. Yeah. It breaks the parity of this card unbelievably. The Draven deck was really good for a long time. However, I'm also kind of glad they banned it anyway, because I don't think it would have been good enough to ban prior, but it kind of like makes you stop playing the game where you just end up trading blows. Where like you move in, you conquer, and then I move in to try and beat you, you back out, and then you move in and I back out. It's not a very fun gameplay pattern. So I'm kind of glad this card's banned just for like fun purposes. I think it wasn't a very fun battlefield. But with Draven in particular, it was very broken. So kind of a hard one to parse as well. But once you get into the games with it, they're kind of like, all right, well, I'll just back out. All right, well, I'll just back out. It's kind of like, I don't know, not very interactive. All right, then we come to our last card, our second battlefield. We've got Hollowed Tomb. When you hold here, you may return your chosen champion from your trash to your champion zone if it's empty. And I'll provide some context here. So holds when you have a battlefield under your control and you go into your turn you could score a point like that too. So you can score on conquers when you move in and like win the battlefield, and you can just score a point for when you go to your turn and then maintain the battlefield. That's a hold. Your chosen champion is your unit that matches your legend that kind of like sits off to the side, and you can play it at any point in the game. Your champion zone is just where that unit sits on the table. My
instinct is this has to be a staple for some decks where your champion is just like the key to your deck. So imagine it's a wild different bag of, for someone trying to game design, you're not going to have every deck have its champion be its best card or soul piece. But some decks, the champion is going to be an integral card. And those, being able to use it again, is pretty damn good. Especially if they're like lower costs. It's not like a commander, right? Like they don't naturally go back to the champion zone, right?
Correct. So if you're looking at Magic as an analogy,
yeah.
Chosen Champion is basically just like the 5th card in your hand. It just kind of sits there. And once you play it, it's part of the game.
Okay.
That's it.
I have to imagine that this benefits some decks just way more than others. And by that logic, it's a staple.
This is a stinker. Doesn't really see any play, but I actually like your analysis where like, I kind of agree. I think the biggest thing is there are just like a lot of like kind of best in slot sort of battlefields, which is the challenge of designing them where like, they're just really good. There's a battlefield where each player starts with a point. So you play to 7 instead of 8. And like, if you're aggressive, that battlefield's just like, you're just always playing it, And there are some decks where you're correct, where the chosen champion is everything, where they really, really build around it, but they just have battlefields that just do better things than this, as far as drawing them cards more naturally, or, and also holding's tough too. Like it's not always easy to hold. So yeah, that's basically where this one's at.
How many battlefields exist? Because I guess I didn't realize there were that many that you had to choose from.
Yeah, in set 1, I think there was like 15 or 20-ish. And there's probably
that's a lot. Okay.
Probably a total of maybe 40 or 50. There are a lot. And it's like...
Yeah, I don't think I expected that. Okay.
It's so many that like a lot of them just don't see much play, And like usually there's like every set has one battlefield that's tailored to each legend, where there's 12 legends of a set. There's 12 battlefields where it's just like, all right, this is your legend, the card you play with this legend kind of thing, But usually you have one of those, and you have like 2 best in slotty battlefields, and then the rest kind of just get left behind. So this is the one thing where like I really don't like bans in games typically, but they banned a few of the battlefields, and I was like, that's kind of fun just to rotate these, because you can still play your deck. If they ban a card in your deck that's too important to have, good, I guess, But battlefield's like, whatever, I'll find a new battlefield, it's fine. So for the most part, I think you had like 2 or 3 misses. It was a great total overall hit rate.
I'm proud of myself. I did okay. Yeah.
Yeah, brush shoulder off a little bit, So and it's really cool to hear, players in different games who are obviously experts in their game kind of work through, And I've done one of these before for Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually, with the one Jhin, where he is a Magic player who also played Yu-Gi-Oh! And I had to go through the cards and just trying to like, okay, well, this seems kind of cool. This one's kind of like making that, gamer bell ringle in my head or whatever. So very, very fun to watch.
I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably one of the easier games to trick people with because it's so convoluted in so many ways. And moving, like, individual cards don't give you a full picture so often, especially in the modern context.
Yeah, I did okay. The comments were pretty kind to me. They said that I did a pretty good job picking up on it, but it was a lot of fun. So kind of fun to see the other side of it too.
How mean the person giving me the cards wants to be, because that's a big thing. There are cards that you can make that are pretty obvious, like, wow, this card is crazy. And then there's all the niche like combo pieces that are integral to a deck that like look like dog shit, but you kind of have to play, and making someone guess that is not easy.
Yeah, it was fun. So, but thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. I hope you enjoy your little foray into Riftbound here. And I like the Thousand Tail Watcher. Like, I know that one. I've played that card before, and they groaned. So that's pretty fun. Great. So as a recap, of course, Jesse, where can folks find you and find your content?
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube primarily, both just with my name, Jesse Kotton, YGO. And yeah, it's simple as that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Jesse. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Peace.
All right, really cool stuff. That was a blast. Said it a few times, but really, really fun to see a super high-level player. Kind of the gears are turning, trying to figure out the cards. We got him on a few, which is fun, but he did a really good job on the other ones too. And for all you fine folks, again, brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. If you like his content, let me know in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hit that hype button. That's all for today on Arcane Academy. Class dismissed.